everybody, welcome to another Facebook Live cooking video. My name is Sigrid Solis, Program Coordinator with the FCHS Family and Community Health Sciences Department of Somerset County. I am excited for today's recipes. It is one of my personal favorite recipes, one that I have extensively prepared, not extensively prepared, it's one that I prepared several times. I prepared it for friends, I've prepared it for family, and it's always a hit. And what's great about this recipe is that it can serve a lot of people, it can serve just a few people, it can be saved for leftovers, and it's enjoyable. It's not only enjoyable, serves a lot of people, but it's super easy to prepare. The ingredients are probably ingredients that you already have on hand, and if you don't, then they're pretty inexpensive ingredients all around. So that recipe is shakshuka. So shakshuka, that's the pronunciation if anyone was wondering. It's shakshuka. What it means is all mixed up. So this is a recipe that is found all throughout the Middle East, in Northern Africa, although I think the origins are in Yemen or Tunis, somewhere around there. Kind of a little blurry about exactly where the origin is. Although the one that I'm preparing today is the Israeli variety. It's the one that I learned how to prepare and the one that I kind of stick to. So for today, what you'll need is a deep saucepan, kind of like this one, the one that I have here. This is let's see if I can see. Oh, it doesn't really say. I'd say it's got about 2.5, if not 2 inches of height around the edge. So you want something that's pretty deep. Traditional preparations of this dish will be in a cast iron, which you can certainly do. I would recommend that you use a pan that is well seasoned because we have a lot of acidic ingredients in this recipe. We are using canned tomatoes, we're using peppers, so it's pretty acidic, and if you don't have a well seasoned cast iron pan, then that can cause your food to taste a little bit metallic-y, so that's a little bit unpleasant. Today I'm using a stainless steel pan. So here I've got some olive oil already heating up. This is about 2 tablespoons of olive oil. And into this I'll put about 1 small onion. There goes our 1 small onion. It is diced. Along with that, you'll want to put, we'll just wait for these to fry up a little bit. So while we're waiting for the onions to fry up a little bit, or to get translucent I should say, let me go over what the other ingredients are. We are using onions, olive oil, garlic for sure. We have got a 28 ounce can of crushed tomatoes. I usually like to use a combination of tomato paste and Roma or plum tomatoes, but this happened to be very cheap. I was actually reaching for the diced tomatoes when I noticed that the crushed tomatoes, steam peeled, were about $2 whole cheaper, so I just decided to go with these. Depending on what kind of texture you like, you might want to just go with maybe whole tomatoes or diced tomatoes. I usually like the consistency for my shakshuka to be a little bit chunkier, so I usually wouldn't go for this, but it's what we're going with today. We've got some red chili. I feel like those 2 additions really make all the difference. They elevate the dish to something different, especially if you're going to serve it to other people. I highly recommend having the feta and having the parsley. If I were to make this for myself, I probably wouldn't go for those 2 add-ons. In terms of seasoning, it's super versatile, right? You can stick to the traditional Israeli spices, which would be paprika, cumin. What else usually goes in there? Paprika and cumin are usually the 2 that go there. Black pepper, right? If you want to make it a little bit more Italian style, you can add in, you can use oregano and basil, and then maybe instead of using feta, use some mozzarella cheese. If you want to make it like Mexican style, maybe in addition to the veggies, you can add in chorizo. So that's what I love about this recipe, is that it's highly customizable and easy to make. All right, so into the onions will go 1 tablespoon, or about 3 cloves of minced garlic, right? I'm doing a heaping tablespoon because I'm a fan of garlic. We shall fry this up. And then right into that, I will start pouring in the tomatoes. So you might want to, depending on how, if it's too acidic for you, like a dash of sugar will help kind of balance that out. I sometimes do that. I'll sometimes even caramelize the onions a little bit, just adding like a dash of sugar just to kind of, because I know that I'm going to add on the tomatoes afterwards. But I'm also a fan of acidic foods, so that's not a big problem for me. Okay, and we'll need quite a bit more, because this this recipe, the shakshuka, it's essentially the eggs. What you're doing to the eggs, right, so it's an egg dish, is you are poaching them essentially in this sort of tomatoey stew, right? So you want to make sure that there's quite a bit of tomato sauce in there so that it kind of envelops the egg when you go and crack it into the actual sauce or stew. All right, so just mix these a bit more. And if I kind of like move the spoon from side to side and I can still see the bottom of the pan, I think that is a good indicator of whether you have enough tomato sauce in there. Of course, you can make poach the eggs in maybe a little bit less tomato sauce, especially if you're making the dish just for yourself. I will be treating the office to this, so I'm going to make sure that there's plenty of sauce so that we can fit in plenty of eggs. So that's a rule of thumb, I guess. More sauce will mean you're able to accommodate more eggs. Maybe that's not a hard and fast rule. I'm thinking about that now. Maybe that's not a hard and fast rule, but know that you're able to create a deeper well for your egg if you do have a little bit more sauce. So we're just going to let that stew a little bit, let the flavors marry. I'm going to throw in the bell pepper, and this is about three quarters cup of bell pepper. All right, so I'm just going to let that sit for a little bit. We'll let that cook. And I think this is a really impressive dish because you can serve it straight out of the pan. Most places, if you ever order shakshuka, will do it in that place. They'll do it right out of the cast iron. And then, just kind of serve it onto a little bowl or a plate. Have people serve themselves, so it's really nice. It's a really nice dish for any kind of brunch or breakfast. In fact, I think this dish is eaten all throughout the day, so it's not designated for a specific meal, like specifically breakfast or lunch or dinner. It's acceptable to eat this all during any meal time. And I would say it's really great because it's super satiating with the fiber from all the veggies that you have in there, especially if you add something like a side of toast. Then it's, you've got a nice bit of fiber in there. You've got your protein from the eggs, some healthy fats from the olive oil, and from the egg also. So all around a pretty good dish. So let's see, I think our sauce is ready. Yep, she is a bubbling. All right. So here, and you'll probably want a spoon for this, not for this part, maybe a spoon for this part, but I'm going to do it with the spatula. I'm just going to try to create wells here, which I think I will switch over to the spoon. You may not be able to create, you know, a perfect well for your egg to go in, but this is more or less just kind of to help give you a guide of where the egg is going to go. Think of a flower when you're doing this, so kind of like there's petals all around and then a nice little bit in the middle. So that's as good as my wells are going to get. That is all right. I'm usually not a big fan of cracking eggs right into whatever I'm making. I usually like to crack my eggs into a separate bowl and then put them in here. That doesn't really work for this recipe, unfortunately, so just be careful of cracking your egg and making sure not to get any eggshells in there. Although if you do get an eggshell in there, it's not the end of the world. You can always take it out with the eggshell itself. And I can show you if it actually happens. We'll see. All right, so this is one of my wells, so that is going to go right in there. So far, so good. And then you'll want to take the spoon and kind of guide the whites and envelop a bit of the egg in with the tomato. So I'm going to grab a little bit and just kind of put it around the whites, not really around the yolks, or on the yolk, I should say, because we kind of want that to be exposed. It'll just make it look a lot prettier. There goes one egg. There goes another. All right, again, and I'm going to guide some of the sauce all around the egg and try to help it maintain its shape. There we go. 2 eggs down. We've got 4 to go. I think we can fit all 4 in. Again, I'm just going to take my spoon and kind of take a little well right in here. This is going to be our middle one. Ooh, very nice. There we go. Oh, I should have mentioned, so this tomato sauce already has salt, which is why I didn't add additional salt. Maybe that's why it was one of the cheaper ones. Although that usually doesn't affect. Low sodium and regular sodium products usually are the same price, but that is why I did not salt the sauce. I did forget to add the cumin in, though. That would have been a great addition, and the paprika. That is all right. This will still be very, very tasty. Here we've got one more egg. Ooh, that one came out really nice. I like the way that one came out. I'm just gonna try to cover some of it. There we go. And then we're going to put our last egg right up here. Now some preparations will have you do this in a cast iron pan or some kind of pan where you can pop it into the oven, which that is fine. I usually do this recipe in one pan and it comes out just as fine. I haven't really noticed a difference between doing it, starting the cooking on the stovetop and then switching to the oven in terms of consuming it. It's kind of been the same, to be honest. Oh, right, I'm gonna salt the eggs a little bit actually. So here I'm taking about a 1/4 teaspoon of salt to go right on the eggs. I'm just gonna sprinkle that lightly, just right on top. Right, so there we go. And then I'll add in a little bit of pepper too. That'll make it really nice. You can add in some, if you you like spice, you can add in some hot chili flakes. Oops, that was a little bit more than I intended. There we go. And then we shall set the lid on it and let the eggs poach. And then this should be ready within like maybe 5 minutes. You'll just want to check. You'll know it's ready when there's kind of like a clear, a white layer over that egg yolk. That'll kind of indicate that the egg is set. And whether you want to cook it more and make sure the egg yolk is not as runny, not as jammy, then that's up to you. That's up to personal preference. I like my egg yolks to be somewhere in the middle, right? Not too runny and not too hard. So that's what I'm aiming for. And like I said, this is a dish that is super versatile and can assume many different flavor profiles, like I said before. One thing that I didn't do to this one, which I typically do when I do at home, is I add in some spinach or whatever green I have on hand, and it's a nice way to get some greens during the day. I think tomato bases with any kind of green work super well. So that's also one of my favorite things to do with this recipe. But again, that's also not as traditional as the typical Israeli recipe, which is minimal on the addition of those kind of things. All right, I want to take a peek, but I see that one of our eggs is still kind of on its way to getting set. Patience is the name of the game here. Oh my goodness. And then here we have our shakshuka. I'm checking our eggs, so they're not as set. They definitely do need quite a bit of time. So I would let this sit for more time before serving. Yes, definitely needs more time. Let us know in the comments if you've ever heard of this dish before, or if this is the first time you've ever heard of this dish. We're definitely interested in hearing about that. I'm definitely looking to expand my wheelhouse in terms of recipes that I do. This one I had in my back pocket. I'd forgotten about it for a while, but it's definitely a favorite one. It's one of those recipes that I just was making over and over and over again just because it was so easy, and I guess I became tired of it and moved on to other things, but it's a great one. It's a great one to know. All right. So our eggs probably need a little bit more time. I think this was the first one I cracked. No, that's about ready. I think that's about ready. At this point, I would scoop a little bit more sauce onto the egg. And then to serve, what I like to do is throw on, well, I'll do it to serve, not in the actual pot. I'll grab one of the eggs, right, and here I've got some toast, some whole grain toast. Grab one of the eggs, here we go. We'll probably want a bigger spoon for this. Scoop up some of the sauce. There we are. You can cook down the feta a little bit more. I like to have it a little bit fresher. And then there you have your shakshuka. So let us know if you try this, what your thoughts are on this recipe. I will be sure to post the recipe later on in the day. Hope everyone stays safe and have a happy Thanksgiving.